Hi there, this is Teresa Eicher with Counseling and Wellness Services of Archibald. We are in partnership with Jill Holgrave Wellness Consulting. And I come to you today just wanting to talk with you a little bit about feelings. So my hope is that, as new generations come and we mentor and teach younger generations, we are doing more as it relates to education on feelings, understanding feelings, teaching feelings language, and truly teaching how to be in touch with our feelings, how to understand our feelings, how to communicate our feelings as a life skill. That's my hope. But I also find that I have a lot of people who come into the office and as they present and I kind of assess, what are the presenting issues? How are they coping with them? What is their ability to know their feelings, understand them, understand how they might show up in different ways in their life, communicate them, assertively communicate them with the people in their life and share what their needs are. I tend to find that people really struggle in these areas. Many times that's no fault of their own. The truth is that, many times I find that people have come from suppressive environments, environments where maybe for whatever reason, feelings weren't really allowed or weren't really talked about much. Sometimes that just might be a suppressive tendency. Other times that certainly could be because of safety issues, whether that's physical, sexual, emotional abuse, addiction in the home, just a variety of things that I find. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time today and talk with us about feelings and just kind of people's experiences with them. So oftentimes when people come in struggling in this arena and I ask them to really think about, what feelings they're having in relationship to something, they will many times tell me that they are experiencing something a little bit like this. This is Scribble. Scribble. And if you notice about Scribble, he is all kinds of colors and he is all scribbled up. And part of what I love about Scribble is that he has a little bit of anger, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of happy, a little bit of love, and oh, by the way, some confidence. He is all of those colors. So the beautiful thing is that there are all these emotions going on for Scribble. And yet the hard thing about Scribble is that those emotions are probably pretty overwhelming. And I find that so often people come in and a core reason of why they're coming in is because they're overwhelmed. Many times they have suppressed their feelings so much that, their feelings are now coming out in really unhealthy or toxic ways. That can look like, bouts of anger and blowing up on people. That can look like panic attacks, feeling really out of control and feeling full of anxiety and really anxious all the time. That can look like autoimmune disorders. What do we know about suppression and trauma? We know that, people who, have experienced trauma and suppression, they're far more likely to have issues with autoimmune disorders and thyroid issues, just because that chronic stress and those pent up feelings really take a toll on their body. They might be coming in with migraines. They might be coming in with, aches and pains and joint pain that they just, is not, really well understood why that's going on, because truly our body holds these emotions and these experiences within that. And so, it's not uncommon that when I talk with people, I find that everyone has a story. No one goes by without a struggle. And so it's really not if there's a struggle, it's more so when there's a struggle And, you know, have we equipped people well? Are we ourselves equipped well to be able to navigate those feelings amongst that struggle? So, you know, I am kind of big on visuals. If you talk with any of my clients, and sometimes what we'll do, whether they're an adult, whether a kiddo, I'll pull out Mr. Scribble. And I find that one of the ways to make it maybe not so overwhelming is I say, hey, you know, think of like a ball of yarn. To unravel that ball, we just need to find one string. And so there's a lot of feelings here, and that's okay. And I look at it like when we take the totality of all of those feelings, that's really intense and that's really overwhelming. But we can actually break it down. We can start with just one string. So rather than taking it all on at one time, maybe the safest piece about this is love. So tell me about your experience and tell me where you feel like you genuinely experienced some love throughout your experience. And let's just start with that string. And so a lot of times they do. They start just with one string and they pull on that one string. And, you know, many times what I find is that if we can start with what feels like the easier or the more positive feelings within that, it can lead us into another string. And so maybe that string becomes sadness. Maybe as we talk about, you know, people who loved us well through the struggle, it also pulls us into sadness around maybe people who didn't love us very well through the struggle. Or maybe the fact that while people loved us, we also really encountered some of their limitations and that we had a lot of sadness around that, right? And you know what? Here's the beautiful thing too. We can make the choice to put the scribble down. We can say, you know what? I think I've had enough for today. I've talked about that enough. And I just, on my own terms, I want to put that down right now. And then we're also capable of picking him back up. And when we're ready, coming back to it and saying, this doesn't have to be an overwhelming, this doesn't have to be an all-consuming thing. I can pick him up and put him down as I choose and as I need. And oh, by the way, I can go back to the love within the scribble. I can even go back to the sadness within my scribble. Maybe I've learned more about that sadness now that I've talked about it. Maybe I've learned more about that love now that I've talked about that. And maybe as I navigate that, I decided to pull on the anxiety. But what we find is that that scribble, that ball of yarn, slowly but surely unravels. And suddenly it doesn't feel so chaotic. Suddenly it doesn't feel so intense. Suddenly we've created some space maybe for some healing. And that's really beautiful. So if you're a parent and you're working on teaching your kids life skills like emotional intelligence and communication on emotions, maybe we talk to them a little bit about the scribble. If you're a person who maybe didn't have a lot of guidance around emotions, maybe we look at that area of life that really is causing a struggle and we think about just pulling a single string and just creating some space and some safety to talk about the easiest feeling connected to it. Well, I wish you well, and I hope you have a wonderful end of the week, and I will talk with you soon.